All right, hey guys, it's me again, Pyan. I know it's been a while. So today, we just had a little recap, but basically, we've successfully built all of Catbook together, and that's pretty exciting. You guys have kind of the understanding, hopefully now, to understand what goes into building an app. But do you really? Because I keep getting feedback on our forums like this that kind of look like, I'm not sure if I can build something myself. How do I actually code this from scratch? There's so much code to write. Oh my god, what even are APIs? Where the heck do I even start, right? Like, this is like kind of the feedback we're getting. And I understand, it can be very confusing. It can be kind of daunting. This is a lot of stuff that we're kind of just throwing at you guys, okay? So the purpose of today is to tell you what exactly is next. What do you do now? And what that means is, how do you actually plan a web app? And what do I mean by this? Basically, we taught you Catbook in a certain way, right? So, nice little review. We started with some HTML and CSS. This basically is the page content, structure, and design of your web app. We moved on to some client-side JavaScript, which is the interactivity and also how you make API calls from the client, from your browser. We then moved ahead to server-side Node, Express, JavaScript, basically creating routes, serving pages to your browser. We then used databases using MongoDB and Mongoose, one to actually have the database, one to interface with it, so we could create APIs on our server and then allow users and clients to create and access and edit data. And finally, we did some authentication using Passport in order to allow people to help create users and accounts and have secure login. And I don't actually even have this on here, but today we even did some more where we taught you guys how to use cool things like promises. But this is basically kind of what we've covered so far. And you can see how I've kind of laid it out here in layers, because this is how we taught you in layers, starting from the top and going down. But the truth is, this is not how we designed Catbook. This is not how we planned to build it. And so this is kind of the process that I want to give you guys some intuition on today, because hopefully after milestone 1, you guys have some idea of the app that you want to build. And as you're narrowing down some of those features, those core features you want to build, and understanding what you guys want to work on, you're probably thinking, okay, wait, how do we actually build this? How do we start? How do we plan this, and how do we split it up among our team? And so this is kind of the mentality that I would describe that we use. It's basically a full stack design, and we do it feature by feature. And this is like a weird mouthful, so what does this mean? Basically, full stack. Basically, all full stack means is that you're designing with the idea of like, you're looking at all the different layers of the app, those different layers that I talked to you about just a second ago, we're looking at all of those at once. So front end, server side, database. And then we're going feature by feature. And so we're designing each feature independently. So you don't have to actually think about the big picture, you think of like a certain feature, you think about it in the context of the whole stack. Okay? And so we'll actually try this out for ourselves on one of the features in Catbook, aka our profile. Okay? So the first thing you need to do is understand, okay, what is this feature? Okay? So it's just, you guys can do this yourself, but basically the profile is basically a visual display of the information about a user. Okay? So before we even start coding, before we even start programming anything, the first thing we should do is do this. Figure out, okay, what are the features we want? And then we want to go through each layer of the stack. So we can start with front end. And the basic way to design the front end is usually you want to ask, okay, what do we want to show to the user, to the client, to the browser on the front end? And so that usually ends up with something like this, like wireframes, sketches. It doesn't look as good as this. It's basically what you guys had this weekend, which is really nice. But it shows you the basic idea of what you want to present. Okay? And then from there, you have a task, a to-do basically. A to-do that says, okay, so we have this sketch, we have this idea of who we want to show, and from there we want to basically create profile.html, profile.css, profile.javascript, and these are the files that will basically support our front end. Okay? Next, let's look at the server side. Okay? So Again, we're looking at this visual display of information about a user, and the question we want to ask is, what does the client, the Chrome browser, what does it need? And so in this case, the first thing it needs, obviously, are these files that we are talking about. And you don't even have to make these files. But the idea is you want to create the functionality to make the client be able to get these files. And we already know how to do this. That's called creating some routes and using Express and Node. And so that's another to-do that we have. We want to create the /u/profile route to be able to serve the files HTML, CSS, JavaScript, stuff like that. In addition, we also noticed that from our wireframe, again, we haven't even made this yet, but we kind of had an idea based on our wireframe that we want to be able to provide some data. Because this isn't just one static HTML page. You want to create a profile that might be different for every single user in your database, in your app. Ignore that I said database. That doesn't even exist yet. Just in your app, there's users, right? So you want to have a different profile for every single person. So the client, the person who's looking at this, probably needs data, such as a user's name, or a user's about me, or a user's last post. And so we're also going to need to be able to create a user API to provide that data. Okay? And so we have two to-dos here. And then finally, we want to think about our database. Okay? And it's actually really important. We have to ask, what data do we need to store? And often this is the part that really gets you thinking about this whole full stack, because when you're creating features, you really need to actually go to the back end if you need data. So what data do we need to store? In this case, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the user object, some user thing model in the database that basically stores the name, the last post, about me, anything else you might want to store in the user. And so now we have a to-do with this as well, where we want to create a mongoose schema or a model and basically enable our backend to interface with our database and have this actually be a thing. So just like that, in a short, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, we worked through profile, and we have an idea of what it is, and we have an idea of what we need to do. And you can start to see how these little segments are great in the sense that you can start splitting this up easily on your team. Because not everyone might want to do back end, not everyone might want to do front end. So you should probably give the front end person something about profile and CSS and all that magic-y front end stuff, and some guy who's really into data to start making the mongoose model, and some guy, maybe a few people to work on the profile routes and things like that. And you should be able to create the feature. And you should notice that you don't have to think about anything else in the app. It might be useful to, because these things might be reusable. But you don't actually need to think about anything else in the app because you just thought about the feature and you made basically what you need. And so if you think about if we go back to how we designed the Capbook, not how we taught it to you, it's in this full stack, feature by feature way, where we created an idea of profiles, stories, comments, and we split it up into each of these different components. And we were a team, just like you guys are, and we had people working on the front end, we had people working on the back end, and basically, I was a front-end person, so I took care of a lot of this stuff, but you can split it up very easily. And this is really, really important because, not everyone, maybe you want to be really efficient, right? Maybe you want to get these things done as fast as possible. And the most efficient way to do that is, give one person these, one person these, one person these, or maybe these are a little more mixed. You can give 2 people some of these and mix it up. But it's usually really good to have one person on the front end and one person on the back end so that they're able to split these up and kind of work in parallel. The other important thing though is if you do that, maybe you're not learning as much. So if you want to prioritize learning, maybe you can split it up hey, I will take these 3, someone else will take these 3, someone else will take these 3, and you kind of look at that. So you get a touch of every single part. And in theory, if you did this correctly, you should be able to do that. The final way you can do it is like one person can take all of this, one person can take all of this, and one person can take all of this. And this is okay, but this is actually probably a little dangerous because that means that maybe not everyone understands how this feature works. And especially if you're starting to have features that kind of cross over each other or depend on each other, you're really dependent on that one person to do that. And also, that will require basically every single person understanding everything in your entire app, basically knowing the front end, the service side, and the database. Cool. So let's do it now. Hopefully you're sitting with your team. If you're not, I hope you guys don't hate each other already. But yeah, so take 5 minutes and just talk to your teammates and pick any feature of your app and just write down some of the different components of a single feature. And don't worry, if you get stuck, staff will be walking around to help you guys figure out what kind of stuff you want to do. So go ahead and do that now.
What? I couldn't understand what.
If you want, I've also kept this up so you can take a look at our examples and just see it off.
Yeah, I know. That's how. Also, I think I'm gonna use it. I don't know how to like brands. I just do what they do. So let's do the feature stuff. Yeah. Let's just pick one. Like the rest. I was thinking like the page that is
I like this.
So you like didn't adapt it? Students, faculties, and researchers.
Alright guys, okay, hopefully you guys have gotten some good ideas going. We're going to bring it back. Alright, okay, so yeah, hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you guys have started to think about your app in a more like organized manner. Hopefully you guys have figured out how to do this. And because I'm going to tell you right now, planning ahead now will help you stay organized and improve your productivity. Because like splitting them up into those parts will actually get you to like start making bite-sized improvements in your code instead of just like doing it all at once in like a nice 10-hour chunk, which happens a lot. That's what the hackathons are for. But like at least you'll know what to do in those 10-hour chunks because you have a nice list of things to do. Okay? So yeah, make sure you guys take some time this week. Just go through your entire app, really focus on what you want to do, and then kind of write out this list. And don't be afraid to change the list, because the list can change, your app can change, but that's important. So yeah, before we split off to lunch, I thought I might as well give some common feedback from Milestone 1. I met with a lot of you guys yesterday. First of all, really great job. There were some really, really cool ideas out there. You guys did a great job with like making wireframes. I was really impressed with all these people that all of a sudden started using Adobe XD. Thanks, Jessica. Like, I don't know, like, I've never used this tool before, but it's cool that you guys have kind of just picked it up real fast. I know I will be soon. But yeah, so I had some common feedback that I was telling a lot of groups, so I thought I might as well just bring it up today. So first and foremost, try and focus on that one killer feature. I told a lot of you guys this yesterday, and I'm going to tell all of you guys again today. There's a lot of groups that have really, really cool ideas, and really, really cool wireframes, really, really cool apps, but they're not really scoped for this class and competition. Like we have 3 weeks from now. And by the time you get started, maybe 2 weeks. By the time you really get started, maybe 1 week. Who knows? Like it's not a lot of time to build this app. And so you need to scope your app in a way that you can actually manage, right? And when I say focus on that one killer feature, you should think about your app and be able to tell like, hey, what's my motivation to do this? Why am I making this app? What is it for? Okay? And if there's one thing that like really drives that app, make sure that like everything in your app is focused on that. Because that can really, really like help your entire app, your entire website make for a better user experience. This is a little hard to explain. I don't want to talk about any of your ideas in particular. If I talked to you guys yesterday, you know how I kind of describe this as your idea. But I'd rather talk about in some like general idea. This is not necessarily even a web app. But raise your hand if you played Jackbox games. Okay. For those of you who haven't, it's going to be pretty useful and like it's very similar to a lot of people's ideas that people are bringing up this year. But basically, it's a game, but it's a very social game in the sense that you buy this game, and then how it works is one person presents the game almost like a presentation on like some monitor, whether it's their computer or a TV or something like that. And then everyone else can join in using their phone or laptop or computer. They just go to a browser link. Okay? You do like jackbox.tv/ABCD or something like that. And how that works is basically anyone, it's kind of like a trivia show kind of game, one of those buzzer kind of games. And it's actually a bunch of games. But the common idea is that anyone can play. It's super easy. You don't need to install anything on your phone or your computer or anything like that. You just go to a website, and all of a sudden you're ready to start like clicking buttons, answering trivia, and like the main screen kind of shows all these cool things in real time as people are doing them. And honestly, this sounds like something that some of you guys have pitched. Some of you guys have been thinking of like social games online and things like that. And this is a good example. So if you haven't seen this before, highly recommend looking at it. But why I bring this up is because they've made like 5, 6 party packs now, and each party pack is like 4 or 5 or 6 games or something like that. And like every single game has this common element. That's the whole idea, that like you can join these lobbies from your phone. You don't need to install. They're always super simple. Anyone can play. The whole idea is that like you're having real-time fun interactions with this like game that's on a big screen using your phone on your little screen, I guess. And why this is cool is because this is like central to Jackbox's success, in the sense that they focus on this one killer feature, making this user experience of connecting to a game as simple as possible, and as clean as possible, and as easy as possible. So when I say you literally type in a browser and like type in your name and then like that's it, like that's actually it. You don't ever have to reload the page. Hopefully, sometimes it's like a little wonky, but like you don't have to reload the page. You don't type much after that. You like usually have just simple buttons or you type in little answers. The gameplay is really easy. It doesn't limit you in any way, and it's really just focusing on this idea of how do we make or bring back this idea of social board game, trivia game fun and bring it to the modern age by using technology to kind of incorporate these fun things that you see on game shows like buzzers or like anonymous input and things like that. Okay? And so when I say focus on that one killer feature, I say think about the feature that you want to provide, the user experience you want to focus on, and then develop other features or refine other features so that they all centralize on this one concept, this one motivation, this one idea that should encapsulate your entire website. And this doesn't just go for back-end features, this also goes for the design. Like, if you're making a website and it's all about, let's talk about Grubhub. If you're making a website, it's all about like delivering food to you, right? And then make that entire design of the website look like something that like is appealing. And so what does that mean? Like, I don't know if you guys know about like color theory and things like that, but apparently red makes you hungry. I don't know. So yeah, there's a lot of red on the website, but they also have these fun characters and animations. I don't know if you played that like roulette game at the end when you ordered and like they give you fun free points and things like that. They have a bunch of things, all features directed to making you hungry and want to order more food. And so this is the kind of thing that you should be going for in your back-end features, in your front-end design, just everywhere in your app. Second, use your team's strengths. We mentioned earlier in this class, this is meant to be a team project. Now I know some of you guys are going solo. Have fun. Good luck. It's a little harder like that. But this is, if you're with a team, you should be using your team's strengths. And what do I mean by that? Well, I showed you earlier how it's very easy to divide up your project into a bunch of different to-dos, a bunch of different components that different people can do. And I showed you a bunch of different ways to split that up. And so one thing to keep in mind is if you have like someone on your team who's really passionate about design and art, you should probably let them do the front end, right? That's probably a good idea. In fact, I actually recommend usually letting one person really do the front end because then it creates a nice unified visual style. And like people, if you have like two people, maybe you have like some parts of your website that look one way, some parts of your website that look another way. But the other thing about this is that you should use your team's strengths and that you should analyze your own team and understand what your team is good at. If you have like three super genius coding monkeys, you know, that like have like been programming for ages and like know web development, or at least like maybe they don't know web development, but maybe they know like machine learning and like weird algorithms and things like that, right? High-tech machine learning. That's someone's team name, I don't know. But like maybe you want to be able to take advantage of that. So maybe your app, maybe your features should really focus on that. It doesn't really make much sense if you have three coding monkeys that never have drawn a piece of art in their life to make an app that's supposed to be all about like beautiful aesthetics, right? Unless you want to challenge yourself, in which case, go for it, but I don't know. On the other hand, if you have three design-oriented people that are all about like making beautiful art, then maybe that machine learning image processing recognition app isn't for you, you know? So really think about these things when you're deciding on your app. And I bring up something, this is not even a web app, I just bring this up because I really like this game, and I'll talk about it at any point. It's a game called Hollow Knight, and basically it's a really cool story because it's a really, really large game made by just three people, which just goes to show, three people can do a lot, I mean you guys. But it's a beautiful game, highly acclaimed, and the point is that these three people were really focused on or they're really good at making beautiful art, right? And so nowhere in their game do they have extremely complicated mechanics or anywhere like that. The game plays really well, it's really nice, but like they don't try and do anything too complicated. They kind of focus on very traditional platforming, fighting, things like that, but where they shine is in their world creation, because it's beautiful, you get really immersed and things like that, and this is what 3 artists that are focused on that can do. So, just like that, you guys should focus on what you guys are capable of, and what you guys excel at. Finally, I bring this up because this is like MIT class, and MIT students tend to be a certain way. So, but like, aesthetics means just as much as function. And what I mean by this is, please make your websites pretty. Like, try to, in some way. Bootstrap exists for a reason. Like, it'll do a minimal amount of thing, but like really go further if you can. But I also mean this in the sense that a website can do a lot, even if it's really simple at its core, if it's really pretty. And for this example, I bring up our last year's winner, Jessica. But last year's winner, it's a website called Plix. And at its concept, it's a really simple idea. You just have these pixel art boards, and you just draw on it, and anyone can draw on it, and that's it. Like, kind of. There's like a little more than that. But basically the idea is that you can draw on these pixel art boards, and people can do it at the same time, and kind of location-based, but core concept is a community for creating pixel art collaboratively. And yeah, that doesn't seem super complicated, and that doesn't seem like a lot. And they spent lots of time on this, obviously. But you look at this website and you see it's probably nothing like any website you've kind of seen before. This is hard to show here, but like these clouds move across the sky in parallaxing fashion. Sometimes like random pizza clouds show up. Like there's like a lot of like weird stuff that's like quirky and like cool about this website. I highly recommend checking it out. But the point is that this app is really simple. Yet because they put so much time thinking about everything that, like, the central idea of this app is pixel art. Let's just make the entire app kind of look like a pixel art, like, beautiful canvas. And then, like, you really make strides there. And none of this entire homepage, which they did, has anything to do with backend features. None of it is really that much programming. It's just all just, like, taking advantage of some few simple CSS stuff and drawing some cool things. And this can win. So keep that in mind. So yeah, with that, that's all the advice I have for you today. Alright, so yeah, good luck with really starting and like taking that first deep dive into your app. And yeah, food is here, so enjoy.
Stay tight for 1 sec. Food is in the process of